Look at this. Infrared is straight up a red fash. Thank you, Maximilian. Whenever I tell people I'm literally just a Marxist-Leninist, you know why? I'm not just a Marxist-Leninist. Maybe I'm not. But in that case, we're referring to a higher, like, sublation of Marxism-Leninism, which hasn't happened yet. So we're going to stick to the precedent for now. But, yeah, I'm just a Marxist-Leninist. Let me put it this way. I'm a Marxist-Leninist in the same way that Lenin was an Orthodox Marxist. Simple as that. Now, does that mean I'm going to be dogmatic and there's no future? No, because you know what? I'm fucking sick of fucking MLs, like the ones on Twitter I'm debating or arguing with. These stupid fucks. Like, they had the same mentality. If Lenin had their mentality, Lenin would have never written the book Imperialism. And I have to ask these dumb fucks a question who say, how can you say we live in socialism? Let me ask you a question. Lenin identified imperialism as a brand new stage that was closer to socialism. It was a step closer to socialism, right? And he said, we're finally towards socialism. It's the last stage of capitalism. And these MLs seriously want us to believe that we're still in the same stage Lenin was talking about just because nobody has had the balls to do what Lenin did since then. It's like, since he left off, we're living in the same time period, right? Just because no one has had the courage to repeat what Lenin did. And you know what fucking Lenin did, right? He said, fuck you to all the fucking Orthodox Marxists at his time. He went into a cave and he read Hegel. And he came out realizing that these people have completely fucked up Marxism because they forgot Hegel. They forgot the philosophical foundation. And it is on that basis that Lenin made the contribution to Marxism. That's the reason we have Marxism-Leninism. The reason it's called Marxism-Leninism is because Lenin made a unique and independent contribution to Marxism. And the reason he was able to do that is because he said, fuck you to the discourse, and he went to the roots of Marxism through Hegel. And he literally said this. He literally said, in case you fucking need proof, I will literally show you what the man himself said. So anytime someone tells you they're a Marxist-Leninist, please show them this. It is impossible to fully grasp Marxist capital and its first chapter, so we're not even talking about the second and third, just the first chapter, if you have not studied through and understood the whole of Hegel's logic. Consequently, none of the Marxists for the past half a century have understood Marx. He didn't say you have to know some of it. He said you have to study through and understand the whole of Hegel's logic. Okay? Hegel's logic is a book, by the way. It's a book. The Science of Logic. It's a book called The Science of Logic. If you don't study through and understand that whole thing, Lenin says you will not grasp Marxist capital. And he attributes, he says, because Marxists didn't do this, for half a century, none of them have understood Marx. Literally half a century went by and they forgot Marx. What the fuck do you think is going on now? Tell me what you guys fucking think is going on now, huh? So Lenin said for half a century, nobody's understood Marx. Marxists haven't understood Marx. We're living in 2021. How many Marxists do you know have mastered Hegel's logic, science of logic? How many do you know? Fucking none of them. These fucking dogmatic shit-eating pieces of shit who fucking call themselves Marxist-Leninists just because they don't go any farther than Lenin did. Lenin just so happened to fucking die in the 1920s, so apparently it's over, and that's it. There's no longer any unique contributions because Lenin died in the 1920s. Just because no one has the balls Lenin fucking had to challenge all of the Marxists of his day. And that's what fucking Lenin did. He went against and challenged all of them. I'm so fucking sick of this idea of people thinking
that Lenin was just going along with the discourse, and anyone who goes against the discourse is a reactionary. Then you would have called Lenin the biggest reactionary of all fucking time, because he said fuck you to the entire discourse, and he went against every fucking Marxist of his time. And people make it seem like on Twitter he would have been with the fucking Chapo mob, ratioing people and shit. You're reactionary. The majority of tweeters are against you. Lenin would be with us. No, he fucking wouldn't. He fought tooth and nail by himself against the equivalent of you in his time. You stupid bitch. Dogmatic pieces of shit. And I cannot exempt many more of recent Marxists from this reproach, for most amazing rubbish has been produced in this quarter too. Yeah, that is why Lenin had that fucking hairline. Kwame Nkrumah's neocolonialism offers a similar contribution as Lenin's imperialism. No, it doesn't. Lenin's contribution has been unparalleled, period. Maybe you can talk about Mao. But even then, I would say even Mao is just an extension of Lenin. Even Mao was just an extension of Lenin in many ways. Nobody went further than Lenin. There's Marx and then there's Lenin. Now, Stalin and Mao were geniuses. They were great people. But it's called Marxism-Leninism for a reason. Yes, Mao is an extension of Lenin. And if you don't fucking understand that, you don't even know how much consequences Lenin's break with orthodox Marxism has for Marxism. You don't know how big what Lenin did was. You don't know how big what he fucking did was. He changed everything. Lenin literally changed everything. So much so that not even Stalin himself drew out all of the consequences of Lenin. Lenin's break with orthodox Marxism was so profound and fundamental that to this day, in 2021, no one has yet to actually come to terms with how it was that someone can rediscover Marx in the way that Lenin did. How can there be a new contribution to Marxism? What does that say? A new contribution. Mao was into anarchism? No, he fucking wasn't. Mao was a Marxist-Leninist, and he was a deeply Chinese thinker. Mao was most of all influenced by Chinese literature. And then from the West, he was influenced by the American pragmatists, like John Dewey, who he studied, and then he was a Marxist-Leninist. Yeah, Mao was a master thinker, right? Now, Mao, I will say, was a more impressive overall figure, maybe, than Lenin, because of what he accomplished. So militarily and politically, Mao was, he was probably the greatest Marxist in the 20th century, easily, right? But he did not really, his implication for Marxism was not as profound or transformative as Lenin's was, is the difference. But Mao was probably one of, if not the greatest living figure in the 20th century. I mean, who came close to Mao? Just think, the whole 20th century. Name one person that comes close to Mao. It's hard, isn't it? He's single-handedly probably the greatest individual of the 20th century. Stalin does come close. But to be honest, Mao took it to another level. Stalin did a lot. There's no Mao without Stalin, so we know that. There's no Mao without Stalin, 100,000%. That's absolutely true. No Mao without Stalin. Mao was an anarchist at the beginning. So was I when I was 13.